Hello, welcome back to the channel. It is Dan, Nocturne Knives. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. On this video, we're going to be talking about some sharpening that I did on my Hinderer XM-18, and then we're going to go over a few first impressions. Before we do that, don't forget to go like and subscribe down right below this video if you like sharpening content, knives, all sorts of stuff like that. And I got a question for you. Are you a Hinderer or a Chris Reeve fan? Which do you prefer? Or are they kind of both on the same level for you? Or do you like neither? I'd love to know. Drop a comment down below. Now let's get into the video. So when I got this knife, it was super, super dull. Like, this was probably the worst factory edge I've ever gotten. There will be some video of me trying to cut phone book paper with it. It's kind of funny. So I wanted to sharpen this up, and we're going to be talking about that today first, and then we'll move on to our first impressions. I have this Grit-O-Matic silicon carbide stone that I just received, and I'm interested to try it out. First, I'll show you how sharp, or rather not sharp, this knife is. It came directly from factory with what is probably the worst factory edge I've ever gotten. Like, it's atrocious. I mean, I genuinely cannot get it to bite into this phone book paper. It really won't. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. And I made like 5 cardboard cuts, maybe 10 or 15, but not much. Got a bit of notebook paper here, we'll see. So it can make a slice into some notebook paper, but it's not easy. Yeah, it's really, really dull. There's no way around it. So what I've done here, I'll do it again. Got Sharpie on the edge. And I was just looking at this, and I figure it's sharpened at around 30 degrees per side, which is ridiculous. So we're going to bring that down a fair amount. I'm going to aim for somewhere a bit under 20 degrees on this. Here's what we're looking at. Not sure if you'll be able to tell much, but it's good. We're getting close to raising a burr up at the tip section. We got a little more work down at the heel. And the stone is drying out like crazy. And it was soaking for probably 20 minutes. Alright, now we're coming along well. Yeah, the stone's cutting quickly. Okay, that is our 240 grit silicon carbide. We're going to move up to the 500 sharpen glass now. We have a nice consistent burr Our goal here is going to be removing the 240 scratch pattern and just getting a slightly more consistent edge bevel. That's our 500 finished, and I think we're going to end on this Hinderer F-800, which is 7 to 5 microns. So here I'm taking the Hinderer and cleaning off the surface of the stone just because it had some embedded metal and junk from the last time I used it. So clean all that off with the Hinderer and then wipe it off with a paper towel just to make sure it's clean to start with. And now on the previous stone, the 500, that was really removing some material. So it had some big scratches to remove from the 240, the silicon carbide 240. So the 500 was really doing some actual material removal, and I was just perfecting the consistency and the shape of the edge. With this stone, it's really just removing those 500 grit scratches. We're not changing the profile, we're not really cleaning up or making it more consistent or anything, we're just focusing on removing the 500 grit scratches. So that's all I'm doing at this point. And we just flip from side to side, and I'm focusing on keeping my strokes nice and consistent so that the scratch pattern lines up, which is important in your final edge to making it look good and consistent, is having all the scratches go in the same direction. You can see here I'm using my fingers and putting them right out at the tip. And then when I'm working on that midsection and into the tip, taking even strokes, have one finger near the base of the edge, one finger wide. You can check out my grip and hand position video for sharpening. That's a helpful one for this. And now we've got it off the stone. This is the edge, straight off the stone, no stropping or anything. It was coming up quite sharp already, easily cutting through phone book paper. Now it definitely felt like it could be sharper, so we're moving on to a strop loaded with 1 micron compound. I sell strops on my website if you're interested. You can also check out my video all about stropping and everything, how to do it, but we're going to do edge trailing strokes, very light pressure, and just a little bit on each side, because we only want to remove all that burr that's remaining. I don't want to take off all the teeth. I want there to still be a little bit of bite in this edge. And after the stropping, it came up really sharp in the paper, easily going through the phone book, doing S-cuts, push cutting, all that sorts of stuff. It was a great edge that came up. Here you can see it under the microscope, and this is finished to a Hinderer F-800, which is around 2,000, 2,500 grit, something like that. Oh, and I went ahead and tossed it onto this gunny juice, this drop loaded with 1/2 micron gunny juice, just to clean it up a little bit more and refine it slightly more. And the microscope footage is taken after that, so that's after all the stropping. You can see it still has some grit on there, which is what I wanted. I did not want a full mirror polish, wanted something with a bit of grit. So it's shiny while still having that solid grit pattern. I've been really liking this Veneve F800 stone because it gives you a good looking edge while still performing nicely. Okay, let's talk about a few first impressions. So you just saw the sharpening on this. It went well. It was real nice to sharpen. The steel is good. It's nice and hard and heat treated well. So it feels good on the stone. It feels nice and crispy. And if you know what I mean, you know, but a soft steel feels real gummy as you're sharpening it. A well heat treated steel feels crispy. It glides over the stone. Really nice to sharpen. This came originally at like 25 degrees per side, and I took it down to somewhere around 20. It's 19, 20, something like that. Sorry, it's got a bit of tape residue on it, some gunk from cutting stuff, but took it down to around 20 or a little below, and it cuts so much better. Before, you'd be like forcing it through cardboard. It really did not want to go through anything. The edge was absolutely monstrous. So, what are my first impressions on this? We'll talk about a couple things that I like, a couple things that I don't like, and we'll get out of this real quick. So, first, I love the action. This thing has amazing action. It is ridiculous. The first thing I did with this after getting it was put in some skiff bearings. You can go watch my unboxing disassembly of this. That was actually the first video I ever posted. So it's a little bit of a throwback. It's a bit rough in some areas, but it's a cool video. I put skiff bearings in this, and the action is ridiculous. I don't know if it's the skiffs doing most of that work. It was pretty decent before, and I've handled another one of these that didn't have skiffs, and it had action pretty close to this. So I think it's just these new non-flippers have stupid action. And so that's the closing. The opening is fantastic. This detent is really nice and crispy. There's no lash in it or anything. It's solid, crisp, but it's also light. So I can put my finger on the lock bar and still deploy this. Like it's light enough and well tuned enough to do that, but still crispy enough that the blade comes out no matter what. You really can't, unless you jam your finger down onto the blade as you're opening it, you can't fail this. So any push that's upwards and the blade is going to open no matter what. And then next thing, I love the middle finger flick on this. This fuller here is amazing for middle finger flicking, and I love that you can do that with this knife. So you just get your middle finger here, you see, like that, boom, and it's super easy. Hit it every time. Amazing way to open this knife. And you can also, for what it's worth, use the thumb studs to middle finger flick it with ease. So action and deployment on this is amazing. Next, I love this ano. The blue anodized lock side on this looks amazing. It's really vibrant. I'll insert a picture or two of it outside, but the color is so vibrant and it pops so well. I love the color on this. And this is also not a factory scale. This is a brown linen micarta. I think it's linen. Maybe it's canvas. A brown micarta scale from Sharp Dressed Knives. You can also see me install this in that video I mentioned. See it linked right up there. But it's great. It makes this feel just a little bit warmer, a little bit nicer in hand. Another like, I like the blade on this. I really do. It's pretty thick at the spine, and then carries a lot of that thickness to the tip. But at the cutting edge, it's actually not bad at all. It really is not too thick. And this forward choil lets you get up here nice and close to the edge and have really good control and cutting power. You can go hammer grip right here, and you have good power, or a saber or a pinch grip, and you have a lot of control. I like this choil. it's also really good for sharpening. So you can easily get all the way back to the heel. Now let's talk, oh, and another thing I really like is the build quality on this. It is made exceptionally well. Centering is absolutely perfect. No issues there. The machining is amazing, and it's just rock solid on lockup. Like nothing. Absolutely rock solid. Incredibly well made knife. And you can tell when you put it together and take it apart that everything is really high quality. So now a few dislikes. It's definitely a bit heavy. There's no milling. There's no internal milling in this at all. I don't know why Hinder doesn't mill these internally. I mean, I don't know a downside to dropping off a quarter to a half ounce. That would make this just a little more carryable, but it's really not bad as it is. And then my main thing that I don't like about Hinders is the jimping. So this thing is jimped to hell and back. You have this jimping up here on the spine, which is just, it's overly aggressive. It does not need to be this sharp or this widely spaced, especially on the inside of the frames. Like that's proper sharp. And so when you go to cut, your thumb is here, going into the jimping, and it does that, which is just not comfortable. Or say you're in a hammer grip, you have the jimping ramming into your hand like this, or you're in a pinch grip, which is the worst. You have the jimping just chewing up your pointer finger right there. And the pinch grip is one I like a lot. So that's especially annoying. And then you have this jimping down here, which might be the worst. This right here, because you put it in your hand and that's right where your pinky sits. And specifically these two jimps that are right here by the lock bar are really sharp because they're so thin. And you hold it, and at least my pinky, it sits right on those jimps and it jams into my pinky. So I bear down on this and I can feel it stabbing into my pinky. See right there? You can really feel it stab into your pinky. So I think this knife would be 1,000 times better with absolutely no jimping at all. Maybe keep it on the lock bar, but only because it's so nicely rounded. You can see it's got a chamfer on the inside, chamfer on the outside, and it's real rounded. Maybe keep it there. But if there were no other jimping on this knife, I would love it. I would be so happy. That's why one reason I like the Eclipse a lot, even though I don't own one. But I like the Eclipse because it doesn't have this jimping. It doesn't have any jimping up here. I think it might have a jimp or two on the blade, but they're pretty subtle. So that's one reason I really like the Eclipse over most XMs, because the lack of jimping. So just take the jimping off of this. That's my biggest gripe. Otherwise, I really, really like this knife. It's super fun to play with. It's pretty nice in the pocket. It's narrow enough like this that and skinny at the top that you can easily get your hand past it. I like this clip. It carries decently well. It's a really good knife. I'm a big fan. If you're on the fence and you see one of these, especially the non-flipper, maybe the best part about this is it's a non-flipper. I like these way better than the flipper versions. I owned a skinny flipper and did not appreciate it. The flipper tab on Hinderers is abysmal. It's really trash. That's another thing that needs to go. Design a new flipper and don't put any jimping on your knives. I know people are going to be like, oh, then you can't use it with gloves. Okay, I don't care. I'm not using this with gloves. I'm carrying this every day. I don't want jimping like this. I don't want a flipper tab that stabs you in the finger every time you try to use it. I think we can move away from those. Okay, I got a little ranty there, but those are our first impressions. It's a really good knife. It's got some flaws, but overall, I like it a lot. And if you see one of these in a non-flipper, buy it. If you see one and you have the money, it's a non-flipper, purchase it immediately. They are really, really hard to get, and they're also really good. Can highly recommend non-flipper XM-18. Fantastic. All right. I think that is all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it interesting. Enjoyed the sharpening, enjoyed the impressions. Let me know what you think. Go down in the comments and let me know, what is the best Hinder. Are you an XM-18 person? Do you go for the Eclipse all day? Or are you a Dark Horse Hinderer FireTac fanboy? What's your favorite Hinder? I would love to know that. And that is all. Don't forget to go subscribe if you like sharpening, knife stuff, all that good kind of content. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.